Hello, Misfits. This is Kate.
And this is Kevin.
Welcome to Horrorwood.
We're going to freestyle it today.
Yeah, we are. It's a Sunday.
Sunday.
This episode's coming out tomorrow.
Monday.
And then there's Tuesday.
And Wednesday and Thursday.
We know the days of the week. Everyone hates us now. First, let's give a shout out to our listener, Tiffany. I don't know if you saw this comment. So she commented on the Paris Catacombs episode talking about the swastikas.
I did see that.
Okay, you did see it?
Yeah.
Because I assumed, and I think you assumed.
I assumed it was like Nazis.
Nazis. Yeah. And I was like, it sounds like, I don't want to be down there.
Yeah.
So apparently it's Roman swastikas that are actually a tribute to the god Jupiter. And I love learning things. So,
I do too. Thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah,
I
thanks,
saw
Tiffany.
that and then I looked it up and I was like, oh, interesting. Okay.
I was like, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Who would have thought? I mean, the swastika
Yeah.
is such an emblem of like horrific
I
stuff.
honestly did not know that there were Roman swastikas.
I didn't either. I didn't know it was a thing before.
Yeah.
Goes to show what we know.
So thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have another shout out.
Patronian.
A new Patronian, Paul. Thank you so
Thanks,
much
Paul.
for signing up on the Patreon as a Misfit Murderino,
Yay.
which means you're getting a fall gift package. And Paul's in the UK. That's so exciting.
amazing.
Yeah, I love it. I just get so excited like when I find out where someone is from.
International.
Yeah. It's like, ooh,
I love it.
people are out there
They're listening.
and judging.
No.
Just kidding.
In a good way, because they signed up.
Yeah. So thank you
Yay.
so much.
Thanks, Paul.
And I also noticed that some of you are upgrading your Patreon subscription.
I saw that too. That's amazing.
That's smart of you.
Fall gift package.
You want to get some free stuff. And you have, at the time that this comes out, you've got like less than a week to sign up.
Oh, geez.
If you want to get the goods.
It is almost September.
I know. And we have a lot of things to discuss
Oh,
because
my God.
Kevin and I have a very busy fall, which we'll talk about it soon enough. But
yes.
my goodness.
Lots of stuff.
So yes, sign up, and you get free stuff. All right. Did I tell you what the episode was going to be about today? Okay. Today we are talking about the murder of Stephanie Rochelle Spears by former child actor Mark Everett. Mark Everett was a stage name. His birth name is Manuel Benitez Velasco.
Ooh.
He was born on September 28th, 1969 in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
His entrance into this world was a somewhat unusual and rocky one. And to understand that, we need to go back even further to the summer before his birth.
Oh, wow.
On June 19th, 1968, Alina Elizabeth Velasco and her mom traveled from the United States to Cordoba, Spain for a vacation. Just a nice summer getaway.
Ooh. Have you ever been to Spain?
I've been to Barcelona, yes.
I have not been to Spain.
I would love to go to Madrid. I would
Okay.
love to see that. And other places in Spain. I feel like now that I've seen Barcelona, I don't necessarily feel like I need to see it again, but there's so much history there and like amazing architecture.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so it's pretty cool. They stayed at the Hotel El Cordobés, which was owned by famed bullfighter Manuel Benitez Perez,
Oh,
who was more commonly known as El Cordobés. When I say famed bullfighter, he was the bullfighter of his day. He was also an actor and appeared in a few movies, mostly in the 1960s.
okay.
And it was his theatrical style that charmed his legions of fans.
Oh, I bet he did. A bullfighter? Those tight pants? Come on.
He was an idol.
Yeah.
By the time of his first retirement, because he retired, then came back, and then retired again, he was the highest paid matador ever.
Whoa. Was he doing the bullfighting in the movies too, or was
Yes.
he? Okay.
Yes. People would make pilgrimage to his estate to try and meet him.
Damn.
He was like Taylor Swift trying to go anywhere. Like hordes of people just gathering wherever he was to try and catch a glimpse.
He did a bullfighting tour called the Eras Tour.
The Eras Tour.
Each bull represented, a time in his life.
Yeah. Way to finish that up.
Here we go. Yeah.
This influx of fans became almost unbearable. So he decided to move a little further outside the city of Cordoba, where he felt people were less likely to travel to find him.
Good.
He bought the estate of Villalobos and commissioned an architect to build him a house with a garden and swimming pool and tennis courts and a bullfighting ring. This place was massive.
Whoa.
And while Alina Velasco and her mother were staying at the hotel that he owned, the two women met the bullfighter by chance encounter.
Whoa.
He took a liking to the two women, particularly Alina. She was a beautiful young Latina brunette with long dark hair and big brown eyes. And El Cordobés said, "Ladies, it just so happens I'm having a party tomorrow. Why don't the two of you come? It's at Villalobos, a.k.a. my big-ass estate, and it's going to be poppin'." El Cordobés was known for his lavish parties, which typically included hundreds of guests. According to Alina, she went to the party, and it was there that she and the bullfighter began their affair.
Oh.
At the party, he asked her if she would like to ride his best horse. And she said yes.
Anytime anyone asks me that, I'm like, I'm on it. Jump on it.
Ladies and gents, if you're at a party and a man approaches you and asks if you like to ride his horse, take a scan of the room. Are there horses there? If not, he's probably not talking about a horse.
Or if you're in the back of a bar at 1 a.m., whatever.
Then also scan the room.
Yes, I agree.
And if you're Kevin, just
go for it.
As Alina went to change into some riding clothes, El Cordobés kept an eye on her. And I think now is probably a good time to note that she was around 16 or 17 years old at the time.
Okay, that's young.
And he was about 32.
Okay. Well, that takes a turn.
Yes. After secretly watching her undress,
Ew.
he walked in and the two ended up having sex.
Oh, well.
And they began a relationship.
Wow, that's quick.
He moved the young Alina and her mother in with him at his estate. They just met. She was just on vacation.
I mean, did they just leave their life in Miami behind?
Well, so they didn't live in Miami. They actually were from Los Angeles.
Oh, got it.
Her son ends up being from Miami.
Got you.
So now she's living with him and dating this man, and her mom is apparently just like, guess I'm staying too.
I mean, do what you want.
And this is terrible to say, but I have to assume his fame and wealth had something to do with Alina's mom okaying the relationship, because Alina was a teenager shacking up with a 30-something-year-old man. Like, what is going on there?
Yeah.
Early in 1969, Alina became pregnant. In April of that year, when she was 3 months along, she and her mother decided to return to their home of Los Angeles. At some point, like I was just saying, she ended up in Florida, which is where that September she gave birth to a son that she named after his father, Manuel Benitez. For clarification purposes, I'm going to refer to the older Benitez as Manuel and the younger one as Manny.
Okay.
Because the names get confusing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like just saying Manuel, we're like, well, what does that mean?
At first, I wrote it out as Manuel Sr., little Manuel. And I was like, you know what? Let's simplify.
Manuel and Manny.
Despite informing Manuel of the baby's birth, Alina claims he never offered any support, financial or otherwise, to care for the child.
Boo.
It's possible he didn't believe the baby was his, and Alina was just claiming he was the father to try and get money out of him. He was very famous and very rich.
Yeah.
And this wasn't the first time the famous bullfighter had been named the father of a baby.
True.
How do you know that?
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
You're like, true. 2 other women had given birth, one had a girl, the other a boy, and each woman claimed Cordobés was their baby daddy. He denied their claims for most of his life until finally DNA testing proved the women were telling the truth. It's also possible he simply didn't want the responsibility. Or it could be the fact that by the time Manny was born, Manuel had moved on. Sometime after Alina gave birth, she brought little Manny to Cordoba to meet his biological father. But by then, El Cordobés was already married and had a baby daughter with his new wife. He was fertile. Virile. Yeah.
Fertile.
Fertile.
Sorry,
not
that's
fertile.
amazing.
Not fertile.
There was just so many sperm in him. Just bursting out. Those big cojones in those tight little bullfighter pants. I mean, wave that red cloth at me, honey. No, I'm kidding.
No,
Don't.
Back in Los Angeles, Alina was left to raise the child on her own. When he was 10 years old, Alina hired big-time divorce lawyer Marvin Mitchelson, whose celebrity clients include Robert De Niro, Mickey Rooney, Zsa Zsa Gabor, and Joan Collins.
Wow.
And I hear you asking, divorce lawyer, when did they get married?
I was going to ask that.
They didn't. Mitchelson is famous for coining the term palimony, which is kind of like alimony for unmarried couples.
Oh.
It grants rights like financial support and property rights to one member of a couple after they separate. Typically, the couple had to have been living together in order for palimony to be granted, and not all states recognize it. And since Alina had technically lived with El Cordobés and, birthed his child, she felt she had a case. She had a lawyer, he had a lawyer, and the two attorneys fought it out. This dragged on for a long time.
Wow.
In the meantime, Manny got into acting and even signed with talent agent Iris Burton, who just a couple of years later would go on to discover River and Joaquin Phoenix and their sisters. She turned kids into stars.
Wow.
For reasons unknown to me, Manny adopted the stage name of Mark Everett and would also use other aliases throughout his life. Spoiler alert.
Wow. Also, I imagine that casting agent to be walking by a bunch of babies in those containers. What are they called?
Babies in containers? What are you talking about?
In the hospitals.
Like the
incubator. Are they incubators? Is that what you call them?
I've never given birth. I don't know.
And she's putting gold stars on the ones that she thinks are going to be famous.
I'd like to think it went exactly like that.
Oh, God.
He began acting in commercials, and by age 12, he was getting small roles in TV shows. In March of 1982, when Manny was 13, Alina filed a paternity suit against Manuel. In an interview, she claimed she didn't want money, she just wanted him to recognize Manny as his son.
Mm-hmm.
By now, it's been 3 years since she first began negotiations for palimony, and the interviewer asks Alina, since this court battle has gone on for so long already, and given how young Manny is, aren't you worried that all of this is going to cause him some trauma?
Yeah.
And she replies, no, I think he would be worse off if the truth never came to light. And when the interviewer asked Manny how he felt about all of this, he answered, I just want my dad to say that he's my dad.
That's sad, actually.
It is. He had a pretty sad and, like I said, just a rocky
life.
A rocky beginning. She presented the court with documents like Manny's birth certificate, baptism certificate, photos, anything she could to prove El Cordobés was the father.
Mm-hmm.
However, Manuel refused to take a paternity test. And because of this, the court automatically ruled in Alina's favor. However, it would still be years before she received any kind of payout. Meanwhile, Manny's career was really picking up. He already had several episodes of the TV show Galactica 1980 under his belt, followed by an episode of Highway to Heaven. Then he landed a role in a special with Mr. T called Be Somebody or Be Somebody's Fool.
That's amazing. That was a good impression of Mr. T.
Thank you.
Also, when I used to work at the Laugh Factory.
Yeah.
And one of the comedians there, I'm going to forget her name. I'm really sorry. But she was Mr. T's daughter. She's back in 2014 was a Chicago comedian.
What's her name?
I forget. I don't remember. She was great, though.
That's amazing. It was an educational video where Mr. T uses rap and breakdancing to teach kids about obeying the rules, essentially. I love Mr. T. After this, he got another TV gig. Manny got another TV gig. We're done talking about Mr. T.
Well, I mean, but Mr. T would go on in infamy for ages.
Oh, yeah. Still popping off. And he's in commercials now, too. So Manny got another TV gig, this time on Trapper John MD. And then he got his first movie role. And it was in what became a pretty iconic film, too. Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, shit.
He plays one of the BMX kids in the bike shop, and he has a line, I forget what it is, but Scott Michaels of the Dearly Departed tours has a couple of clips on his YouTube page that I'll link. Pee-wee's Big Adventure is the credit everyone mentions when they talk about this case because it's one of the most recognizable, and that film was a big deal, even though Manny's role in it is small. Just to be a kid at that time acting with Pee-wee Herman, like that would be a dream gig. He was cast in some other things, a TV movie, an episode of Silver Spoons, and then he did a propaganda film called Shattered If Your Kid's on Drugs, which explored drug issues among teenagers. We're just going to leave that. It starred Burt Reynolds, Judd Nelson, and Dermot Mulroney.
What the fuck?
So Manny is getting to act alongside some big names.
That's amazing.
Judd Nelson in the 80s. Shattered If Your Kid's on Drugs came out just 1 year after St. Elmo's Fire and The Breakfast Club.
Jesus.
The film itself is probably forgettable. I'd never heard of it, but he's building that resume.
There you go.
However, he would only have 2 more credits after that one.
Oh, no.
An episode in a TV series and the role of Heavy Metal Boy in the film Stand and Deliver, which came out in 1988.
Okay.
That same year, after waiting close to a decade from when she first began negotiations, Alina was awarded palimony in the amount of 43 million pesetas, which is equal to about $290,000, which in today's time is equivalent to about $770,000.
That's a sizable amount of money.
Yeah. By now, Manny is 19 years old, so technically an adult, though that doesn't seem to have negatively impacted the palimony decision.
Okay. That took a fucking long time.
A long-ass time. And it's unclear why Manny's acting career ended here. Some reports state he became addicted to drugs, which caused his job prospects to plummet. Other reports indicate the jobs dried up, which led him to start abusing drugs.
Oh, that sucks, especially having done that movie.
And, you know, he was at an age at this point where I feel like you lose that cute kid factor. And it's that in-between time.
Oh.
So I don't know if that played into it, but I could see that.
How that might.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
And I just want to say, many of the sources I used for research were in Spanish. So some things were lost in translation, and some articles couldn't even be translated because it was like a photo of a newspaper.
Oh, boo.
So I had to reach into the depths of my brain to recall some of the Spanish I took in school.
Kate, you're sitting up there in your office translating newspaper articles from Spanish to English?
I mean, my limited Spanish is very elementary, but
same.
I can like read some and understand some things, and then I was able to like look up a few things. According to the Spanish publication Chic, when Manny's career dried up, he got a job at a pharmaceutical company, and it was there he became addicted to psychotropics, so antidepressants, mood stabilizers, etc.
Those things, yes.
We don't know exactly when the drug abuse started, but what we do know for sure is that Manny became a drug addict and a drug dealer.
Fuck.
Then in 1992, Alina's case against El Cordobés crept back up. Lawyers for the bullfighter discovered that Alina had falsified some of the documents she had presented to the court in the paternity suit.
What the fuck, Alina?
She had changed some of the information on Manny's birth and baptism certificates.
Why?
I don't know. It's bizarre to me. And none of the sources I found specified what those changes were. The court also discovered that at least one of the photos she had presented of Manny as a baby, I think to be like, look, see, he looks just like him, was not a photo of Manny after all. It was actually a photo of the baby girl El Cordobés had with the woman he married.
What? Okay, this is weird.
It is weird. So when she went back to Cordoba after Manny was born to have him meet his alleged father, Did she steal a picture of that baby?
Yeah. How did she even I'm assuming that picture wasn't like just publicly out there.
And also this was like before internet. So
right.
No.
So yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, did she think the girl looked more like Manuel than Manny did? And so she was like, well, this will help to prove my case
I could see
more.
that. Maybe she was really gunning to, like, in her defense, make it seem more likely. But in doing that, you fuck yourself over.
Or
is Manny not?
Is he not his son?
El
and she lied about all of it to try and get money out of him. I don't know. I do think Manuel is the father, though he never did take a paternity test. But again, that right there makes me feel like he probably knew that he was.
Because he didn't want to solidify it.
But I don't know why she felt the need to lie to the court.
That's crazy to me.
The court didn't know why she felt that need either. And a Cordoba judge accused her of falsifying documents and asked for 7 months in prison and a fine of 250,000 pesetas, which is only about $1,700, so it's not a huge fine.
Okay, it's not terrible.
The prosecution was like, hey, would you mind popping over here to Spain so we can throw you in prison? And Alina was like, no thanks. I'm in the United States. Don't come find me.
Wow, okay.
Since she never showed up to testify, the judge issued a warrant for her arrest, which seemingly is still in effect.
Yeah.
Over the next several years, we don't really know much about what Manny was doing, besides a lot of drugs. Then in 1996, when he was 26, he met a girl. And I do mean girl. Stephanie Rochelle Spears was 14 at the time. So,
and he was 26?
He was 26. Okay. So takes after his father, I guess.
Oh, Kate is coming out with the receipts.
Woo! Unfortunately, there's not a lot of information out there on Stephanie. What I can tell you is that she was born on September 5th, 1981. She was a young, beautiful black girl who did well in school and earned herself scholarships.
Good for her.
She and Manny Benitez began a relationship. And after a couple of years of dating, they moved in together to an apartment at 13026 South Floorwood Avenue in Hawthorne, California, which is like a suburb of Los Angeles.
Okay. She's 14.
She's 14.
Time? What the fuck?
Well, she was about 16, I guess, when they moved in.
Oh, okay. They met when she was 14.
Still a minor.
Still, that's not great.
No. Even though they lived together, there were things Stephanie didn't know about Manny, things he kept hidden, like the fact that he'd had an entire career as a child actor. He never once mentioned it to her or her family.
What the fuck?
Like, I don't know how something like that doesn't come up.
Yeah.
Think about when you first start dating someone, you talk about your background, your hobbies, your family. Like, how do you just omit a decade of your life?
Yikes. When anyone asks me about my life, I just say, don't worry about it.
And then you sashay down the streets.
And then I pull out my Dracula cape and run off into the night.
The werewolf hands come out.
Don't worry about it. The moon calls us, and then run into the night.
Back to this. Some reports also indicate that Stephanie wasn't aware of Manny's drug use, or at least not the extent of it, or the fact that he was a drug dealer. So he's very secretive.
Jeez, apparently. She knows nothing about him.
It's scary.
Yeah.
In 2000, police brought Manny in on drug charges.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this was great for the relationship. The cracks were definitely starting to show.
Yes.
But Stephanie stuck by him, and soon she found out she was pregnant. Around 2001 or 2002, she gave birth to a son they named Benjamin, and he was the cutest. Despite her age, Stephanie didn't let having a child hinder her. If anything, Benjamin only inspired her to work even harder. She went to college and she focused on her studies and she was determined to do well.
Good for her.
And it does sound like Stephanie's mom, April Morris, was in the picture and able to help where she could.
The child care. Okay.
She's listed as April in one paper and Anita in another, but I think April is correct.
Yeah.
Manny, on the other hand, was a different story. In 2000, he was arrested when cops found loaded handguns in his son's stroller while his son was in it.
That's insane.
It's unclear what tipped off the cops to search the stroller, but nevertheless, he was sentenced to probation.
Well, I mean, if you see a baby with 2 guns,
well, I don't think the baby was holding the gun. Kevin just
think
put
that's
his hands up
I think
like
the
that.
cops saw this baby holding.
They're like, that's odd.
They're like, that's crazy, and they went over to see what was going on.
It was becoming clear to Stephanie that this was not the relationship she wanted her and her son to be in.
Yeah, I would say.
She and Manny were headed down different paths. Things came to blows on Father's Day, June 20th, 2004. The two argued, and Stephanie said to Manny, look, this isn't working. I can't do this anymore. She told him it was over, and either she was going to move out or he was.
Okay.
That evening, Manny waited for Stephanie to fall asleep. And once she did, he grabbed their 2-year-old son, Benjamin, and was about to leave the apartment with him when Stephanie was awakened by the noise.
Mm-hmm.
She sees what's happening and immediately jumps into mom mode. She's like, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
They got into a heated argument. And then, with their toddler in the room to witness it all, Manny grabbed a dumbbell lying nearby and beat Stephanie with it until she was dead.
Oh, my God.
She was just 22 years old.
No.
He then kidnapped Benjamin and went on the run. That's enough to traumatize that boy for life.
As a 2-year-old? Witnessing that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Manny and Benjamin were missing. No one could find them. But it wasn't just the two of them. Alina fled with them.
I figured.
While the 3 of them were on the run, it's believed they went somewhere in Cuba or Mexico because they had ties there. This is where I'm like, what the hell, Alina? Like, what are you doing?
Alina, at first I was kind of on her side, but now, like, the falsification, running away.
There's other stuff going on there.
There's something else, yeah.
I mean, I understand this is her only son. She doesn't want him to be locked up for the rest of his life. She wants to protect him. But he's murdered someone.
He murdered somebody.
He murdered the mother of your grandson.
Right. At some point, you have to let people kind of take their own fall.
Yeah. After Stephanie's murder, Manny and Benjamin's photos were placed on milk cartons. Were you old enough to remember those days when they would put the photos on milk cartons?
I don't think that happened anymore, but I remember it, I think, just after. Like, it was still kind of something you saw on TV and in movies and stuff. But I never remember seeing that.
I remember that. Oh, yeah. I remember that. I'm old, Kevin, remember? I remember that, and it would say, like, have you seen me? And it would have the photo, and then it would have, like, all of their physical description and who they were last seen with and that kind of thing. So their photos were on milk cartons and also on the website for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
This is going to sound really macabre, but I think it would be really interesting to see, like an exhibition of, like, those old milk cartons, if anybody still has them. You know what I mean? Like artifacts.
That's
I know it's chilling and gross, but I think it would just be really, like, powerful to see.
Oof.
Anywho, continue.
According to the FBI's website, Manny used a variety of aliases and was rumored to speak 5 languages. He was definitely fluent in Spanish and English, but supposedly could also speak German, French, and Cantonese. When did he learn these?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
I mean, maybe he knew a few words of each and was just like, hey, guess what?
Maybe it was like Jane Mansfield, where she was like, I speak 5 languages. And then all it really was like, hello.
Right.
Almost a year later, so a year after they've gone on the run, in May of 2011, the Superior Court of California charged Manny with murder and issued a state warrant for his arrest, which I don't know why it took that long. And again, remember, they're still not found.
Yeah.
Then about a year after that, in March of 2006, Manny was charged federally by the United States District Court with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. More than a year after that, in June 2007, the FBI offered a $20,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. His case was featured on America's Most Wanted 8 times between 2004 and 2008.
Whoa.
He was part of their Dirty Dozen, which is like America's most wanted. Even after the FBI offered the $20,000 reward, it was still another year and a half before police finally caught up with Manny Benitez.
Good.
On Tuesday, December 23rd, at about 2:30 in the afternoon, police got a call from someone at a strip mall in El Monte, California, which is maybe like 13 miles outside of LA.
Okay.
The caller said they'd spotted a man outside who had a young child with him, and something just didn't look right.
Mm-hmm.
The man was gaunt with scraggly, graying hair, and something about him and the kid just seemed off.
Okay.
If you're ever in a situation where something doesn't look right, call the police.
Yeah.
Better to call and be wrong than to not call if you were in fact right.
Right.
It was, of course, Manny and Benjamin. So police show up in the parking lot of this mall. There's a few restaurants and some shops, and as soon as Manny saw the officers, he went berserk. He immediately pulls out a gun, grabs Benjamin, and held Benjamin in front of him to shield himself from the police. The officer told Manny to let the boy go, but instead, Manny held the gun against his son's head, put him in a headlock, and dragged him toward the nearest restaurant, which was called El Sombrero. An employee who was watching all this go down in the parking lot saw him coming and quickly barricaded the doors shut so he couldn't get in. So he turns around and heads clear across the parking lot. Like, there were so many storefronts much closer that he could have run into, but instead he goes to the restaurant that is one of the furthest away, the Thai Pan Chinese food restaurant. And he has a gun to Benjamin's head the entire time and has him in a headlock. Mm-hmm. And Benjamin was only like 6 or 7 at this time.
Oh, that poor kid.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine.
He's been through
witnessing
far
the murder,
too much.
like on the run.
Once inside the restaurant, Manny locked himself and his son in the bathroom. And just so you can get an idea, this is not some beautiful state-of-the-art bathroom. It's a single in a Chinese restaurant that looks like what you'd find in a gas station.
I'm picturing it in my mind.
Sorry to Thai Pan Chinese food. And I don't know if it looked this way in 2008, but as of recently, there's graffiti all over the walls, and it looks like it could use some serious maintenance.
Sure.
I can only imagine what it smelled like in there.
Oh.
Crisis negotiators are called in.
Okay.
They start talking to Manny through the door. They're like, hey, man, you don't want to do this. Think about your kid. But Manny just kept telling them that he was going to kill Benjamin, any police who responded, and himself. And given that Benjamin has already seen his dad kill his mom, he knows he's capable of it. So he's hearing his dad say, yeah, I'm going to kill him. He thinks he is.
Oh, my God.
Meanwhile, officers have evacuated the entire strip mall. They've blocked off the streets surrounding the area. The crisis team tried for 2 hours to get Manny to surrender or let Benjamin go, but he refused. So eventually, the SWAT team burst through the door and immediately deployed a flashbang device, which emits a blinding bright light, like you're temporarily blinded. And it also gives a loud sound, so it's meant to just momentarily stun the perpetrator, basically allowing cops to start shooting before the gunman can.
Got you.
The officers fired multiple shots, killing Manny at the scene. Benjamin, however, was also shot in the thigh, though his injury was not life-threatening.
Oh, my God.
The sheriff's department did not release information on who shot the boy, which means an officer shot him accidentally. So thank goodness he survived, because that would have been a whole other layer of tragic.
Oh, my God. That's not good. I don't like that.
I thought about that because I was like, they only talked to him for 2 hours and then they burst through. Like, it just didn't feel like, I mean, we weren't there. We don't know the situation.
Well, exactly. And like, was he still holding him? Like, what was, yeah.
So, not good. 2 guns were found on Manny's person in the restaurant bathroom. Aside from the gunshot wound and a few scratches, Benjamin appeared to be in good health.
Okay.
But he didn't have a coat, he wasn't wearing any socks, and his shoes were about 3 sizes too big for him. And keep in mind, this is 2 days before Christmas. So even though we're talking about Southern California, it does get cold there. And he has no coat, nothing. Homicide detective Rich Tomlin, who'd been investigating the case since Stephanie's murder, located Stephanie's mother, April Morris, and reunited her with Benjamin. But because he was just a toddler the last time he saw her,
he didn't remember her. Oh, that's tragic.
She showed him photos of himself when he was younger and pictures of the two of them together. And she said, look at you, I'm grandma. And she was showing him photos of Stephanie. But like, he didn't remember that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, and this kid has been through so much trauma. I can't imagine how much he blocked out.
Exactly. Detective Tomlin interviewed the boy at the hospital, but he had to do it in small amounts because he didn't want to overwhelm him.
Well, and he's been shot, too.
I mean, he's been through it.
This kid.
One thing he asked Benjamin about was his haircut, because he had a poorly done buzz cut. And so, like, it had clearly been done somewhat recently, if it was buzzed. And Tomlin was like, where did you get your haircut? Because he's trying to figure out where all he and his dad had been. And Benjamin said, and this is a quote, my mom had to cut my hair because of all the roaches. So 2 things right off the bat. 1, who is the woman he's referring to as his mom? And 2, he's saying that roaches were living in his hair.
Oh my God. I can assume, is he talking about Alina?
He's talking about Alina.
Yeah.
He also added, quote, wherever we go, the roaches follow us.
Oh, yuck.
So in order to determine it was Alina, Tomlin begins showing Benjamin pictures of family members, and that's when he pointed her out.
Says my mom.
So Manny and Alina have convinced Benjamin that his paternal grandmother is his mom, which means Manny and Alina are acting like their husband and wife.
Ew, what?
There's just like a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
According to Benjamin, Alina was going by the name Veronica, and she had dyed her hair from what it was in the picture to change her appearance. Tomlin learned that Benjamin had not been going to school, and they had just been moving from one motel to another. When Tomlin asked him what he and his dad had been doing the day they ended up at that strip mall, he said the night before the TV broke in their room, so they spent the night walking. He said, quote, we walked all night. Tomlin asked, are you tired? And Benjamin said, I'm exhausted.
Oh, Benjamin.
Benjamin spent that Christmas in the hospital, but once he was well enough to leave, he was released into the custody of his maternal grandmother, who said of Manny, quote, I really wish he could have been alive so I could just ask him why he did what he did. I would rather have him suffer in jail than be dead. As for Benjamin's paternal grandmother, Alina, according to every single source I read, she has never been found.
She's never been found? Oh my God.
Which is chilling.
Is her mother still alive?
We don't know.
We don't know.
No family member has come forward to say, like, here she is. Nothing.
Wow.
There's still that arrest warrant out for her in Spain. Wild.
That's crazy.
I tried to find how Benjamin was doing today and like tried to see if I could find him online. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I think maybe I got a little lead on something, but I couldn't confirm it. And if it was him, it's very sad because it just looks like maybe some patterns are repeating. But
we don't know, really.
We don't know. And all I can say is I hope he gets the help he needs, and I hope he gets therapy, and I hope he's okay.
Yeah, me too. That's stressful.
Yeah, as was this entire case.
Oh my God, Kate.
Let us know your thoughts if you remember this case.
What year was this again? 19?
So Stephanie was murdered in 2004.
2004, okay.
And then Manny and Benjamin were found in 2008.
Okay.
And what's wild is the cops didn't even know that it was Manny and Benjamin, these people that have been on the run for 4 years when they responded to the scene. They were just, responding to this call. And it wasn't until further into it they realized, oh my God, this is the guy.
That's
like,
crazy.
This is America's Most Wanted.
That's insane. Did the bullfighter say anything about this? Or
No.
I mean,
not that I could find, at least.
Of course. No, of course. Whoa.
I mean, he wouldn't even acknowledge
that Manny was his child.
Or that his other 2 kids were his child, because he had 5 other kids with his wife.
Well, yeah, and then we never got the paternity test.
Correct.
And then we know Alina turns out to be a piece of shit.
Yeah, what was going on there?
Fuck. That's insane.
Yeah, it's all no good.
It's all bad.
It's all bad. But you know what? You guys aren't bad. You're awesome. Thanks for listening, and we hope you keep tuning in, and we hope you don't do murder.
Yeah.
Just don't do we don't even hope it. Just don't do it.
Just relax.
And as you're relaxing, you can leave your comments on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at
Horrorwood Podcast.
Send us an email at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
Or be awesome like Paul and hop on over to Patreon at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.
Yeah, do that.
Thankums.
Thankums?
I don't know.
I liked it.
Love ya.
It's the new term. Thankums.